Michigan versus Illinois this weekend, Joe. A ranked game? I think a lot of people that wouldn't.
I don't know how this happened.
Illinois being ranked, Michigan still being ranked, but nevertheless, it is. Both of those teams deserve where they're at. You got to give it to them. Joe, I can't believe I'm coming out here and saying this. Michigan's secondary is not good. Now, Johnson's really good, but everybody else around him.
Well, they got so depleted at corner, at safety. They lost guys in the portal. They lost guys to the draft.
They're 110th in passing yards allowed, Joe.
It has been a ridiculous turnover, and it's not like that they've played world beaters. And look, I know we're already jumping pretty quick into this, but like Luke Altmaier has been a really consistent quarterback. I believe his touchdown interception ratio so far this year, it's like 14-1. He's completing over 65% of his passes. He's a good decision maker. If there's a guy who's going to have a big game against this secondary, as long as he's smart enough to not target the side of the field where Will Johnson is, that's already a pretty big deciding factor, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, here's where I am, Illinois versus Michigan. My head tells me to go with Illinois because I can see a world where Altmaier goes out there against a secondary that's been, by the way, it's not like, Joe, that they've just been bad. Michigan has one of the highest times of possession in the country, which means that the other side of the football or other team does not get the football as much as when they play other opponents. Joe, the God's honest truth, then they've been bad all over the place. Outside of Johnson, safety play has been really bad. Corners have been really bad. You don't give up that many yards and you're being good. By the way, Joe, they're in the Big Ten. I mean, I understand you played Texas in the beginning of the year, but there ain't no excuse for USC to roll in there and do what they did to you in the second half. I also see a world where that front seven's still pretty good. They're still getting after the passer. Joe, I look at them in sacks. They're one of the top 25 teams in sacks. If I'm not mistaken, I have a smudge there because Baby Joel smudged my thing, but it looks like a 2. Nevertheless, the second number is 5 where I have it here. But Joe, I look at them. They can't throw the football, meaning Michigan. They're running the ball okay, but I mean, man, I have no idea what I'm doing with Michigan when we talk about them. Like I know that their front seven's good. They can run the football. But, man, any team that can come in there and throw it around a little bit, they can beat them. And I think Illinois is in that same kind of position here.
Right. The Washington game, I think, is kind of telling, and I don't think that they're going to have the same degree of offensive potency. But the minute that Washington was able to have, like, big plays in the passing game, that was when it started to feel like Michigan couldn't have its footing. Here's two contingencies that I think are important on both sides. One, for Michigan's sake, Illinois' offensive line has been shaky since the start of the season. They've allowed 19 sacks on the year, and we know that front seven is good with Mason Graham. Josiah Stewart has stepped up into this, elite pass rusher in college football, and Kenneth Grant is also a monster in the middle. So they could have their way stopping the run, slowing down Caden Regan, who's their big, burly running back for Illinois. And then on the flip side of these things, Illinois is one of the best defenses at turning over opposing quarterbacks. Xavier Scott has been a ball hawk, and he's been getting a ton of ball production. So for this situation,
and Michigan's been really bad turning the football over, Joe. They're 160.
Whoever the F's playing quarterback, which like they're playing musical chairs right now. I don't care whatever an article says at this point. They could try out the starting punter to play quarterback at the current moment. Who the F knows what they're doing, but they're not playing consistent football at that position.
You can't convince me. Look, let me say it like this. I saw Kentucky years ago put Lynn Bowden at quarterback and win football games in the toughest conference in the country. Okay, I've seen it. You just got to roll with it at this point, right? Like you got to roll with Orgy. Like
the stupid thing is they did, and then they started asking him to throw the ball way too much, and then it's like, why the hell are you doing this?
I know, but see, look, Joe, we talked about this in the offseason, and me and you had a discussion about Sherrone Moore, okay? And we had a discussion, he was an interim for some odd games. Joey, he's not the head coach. I mean, Harbaugh was able to be there throughout the week. He was just still calling plays. His decision making has been flawed at quarterback. It's been flawed.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay. And so this is, again, another situation where you have in a high profile program that has a first time head coach is making silly mistakes. I mean, like, pick the coaches that's happening to, whether it be Dan Lanning, who finally is overcoming his, whether it be Kirby Smart when he first got to Georgia, whether it be Marcus Freeman when he first got to name them. Dion, Joe, name them. And technically, Dion wasn't a first-time head coach, but in this kind of situation, he was. Joe, I think Michigan might be down in a bad spot. I think that if you
wait, I'm not ready to like crown this as like some massive problem for Michigan. I gotta slow you down there a little bit.
I can't because again, if they look, you talked about there's a strong possibility that they could lose this one, correct?
I think that they do. I'm picking Illinois.
Okay, so Paul's right there. So to the point that I just made, before you correct me on that, Joe, did you have them halfway through the season losing half their games? Because I didn't.
I didn't, but
so again, they are down bad considering where the standard of what we thought that where they would be.
But there was a lot of volatility for what they could have done, and we're seeing the negative side of this. And if we acknowledge everything that happened this offseason, I don't think it can be held against Sharon Moore for.
I'm not saying that.
I know you're not. This is going to be a bad year. Look, this is probably, and everyone who does a show outside of ours has said this. So it's not like we're the two negative Nancy's jumping on this show and being, a couple of dickheads. Everybody has acknowledged that they're probably going to finish 7-5, 8-4. It's Sharon Moore's first year. He didn't get to recruit the quarterbacks. That roster was built to win a national championship last year and had no forward thinking at all. There was no approach for what was going to happen in 2024
Sharon
and
Moore
beyond.
in the portal. He could have gone in the portal now.
Wait, but hold on though. That like they were on a national championship run. They were so far behind in being able to assess the portal and go in the portal. It was after everybody had already made their moves when they played in the national championship game. It was such a disadvantage for them, and they were so focused on the national championship game.
When did Diego Pavia commit to Vandy?
I don't know off the top of my head.
They had enough time. He had enough time.
I think with all the
could you imagine Diego Pavia at Michigan
or Curtis Rourke? Like imagine Curtis Rourke. That's another guy that gets brought up a ton.
But see, here's the point that I'm making, or I'm trying to make. I understand, even if it's the time that you're alluding to, it's better than what they have right now. I mean, far stretched. I mean, and so
I just don't think it's fair to evaluate Sharon Moore and this Michigan team until after year 2. Do they show that they've made huge steps of improvement? Do they show that they have a good finish to their high school recruiting class? And does he put together a good transfer portal class as well? That is, to me, the indicator of if this thing's moving in the right direction. He's being set up with the worst possible situation to have taken over out of any of the new head coaches.
Very fair. So you got Illinois winning this game. Why?
Yeah, everything that we just talked about here, man. Their defense, their passing defense has been struggling, and whoever plays quarterback, they're all turning the ball over, going up against secondary that takes advantage of those quarterbacks that make mistakes. So I got to take Illinois in this one. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.